office where we have the role of working with Dan O'Brien at the state OEM to help with GIS in the state EOC. We've also become members.
OEM is what?
Office of Emergency Management.
And EOC is?
Emergency Operations Center. Very good. Spotting all the acronyms.
Yep, yeah.
Let's see. And also part of the state IMT, Incident Management Team, where we go to places where they need help managing an incident, either as they don't have the number of resources to do it 24/7, or they've been doing it for 2 weeks. So we help out there. And in that role, between the state EOC, I've seen how the state responds to emergencies. With IMT, we've worked in county offices, sometimes where we are the main incident management team, other times where we're just filling in gaps for the county. So I've been able to see through my own experience and through other people's experience, the different ways emergencies are managed and how GIS work is used in different ways.
Super. Doug?
I'll stand for other reasons because of the podium. My name's Doug Schutz. I'm the GIS director with Rockland County. I've been there approximately 20 years. Prior to that, I've been in the private sector, and I've also been an adjunct professor at a community college. Soon after getting to the county of Rockland, I kind of started asking about this emergency management stuff and kind of butted up my nose and trying to get into some of the drills. And we're within a 10-mile radius of Indian Point, so it really gave me an opportunity to introduce GIS because they had drills on a regular basis, once a year, sometimes twice a year. So in introducing GIS technology to the emergency managers, and those who participate in the EOC, which we've now clarified what that is. We've spent the last, especially 15 years, just focusing on developing data, and because that can be the best course of action, the best proactive measure that you can take is, as Tim and I were discussing earlier, to be prepared. So by creating so much data, things that I never knew existed or that there was a demand for, by sitting in the drills throughout all these years, it gave us the exposure and the experience to identify their needs. Most recently, in the last 3 to 5 years, we've been developing applications. One of those applications is what we use as our COP, or Common Operational Picture, which is our emergency application. In the last 2 years, we developed a road obstruction tool to that in conjunction with a consultant, Sewell. And that tool we deployed. It was after Irene, it was after an October snowstorm following Irene, but we were able to deploy it in time for Sandy. It saved us a tremendous amount of effort and man or personnelers. In the end, it gave us a tool to very easily teach others to use. And you could put a dot on the map for the type of obstruction, the reason that the road was obstructed, and you could teach people who were not GIS people. That was the key. It had to be very simple. It was a desktop, or it was a browser-based tool at this point. Right now we're in mobile development of that tool, or of that function. But the benefit was, during Sandy, we were able to easily keep track of the road obstructions because we actually had town and highway departments and law enforcement agencies entering some of the data. We were able to share that with the utility companies, as well as other agencies, and then once or twice a day we would push it up to the state OEM and to make it available to them. That led to a lot of improved decision making in our EOC. We were able to quickly point out how to move goods and services or products and people from one destination to another, because we knew the status of the roads. We would just call law enforcement to help verify. But it also opened our eyes to other data sets that were still missing that we have since updated and or created. So you can go through all the drills that you want. It really helps you prepare, but until you actually go through some of these events, you're always learning, and that's the key, I'm sure, for all of us who sit up here. So I thank you for being here.
Hi, Don Meltz. I work primarily as a planning consultant for small towns, rural areas in mid-Hudson, Valley region and in the Catskills. I'm not really an emergency management person. I'm a planner. I use GIS tools for doing basic resource mapping, shed analysis, build-out analysis, those sorts of things. But a lot of my clients are in the Catskill area. So when Irene and then the Lee storms hit, I was watching my client base erode off the map. The very first days I thought, well, I should jump in and try to help them out, do whatever I can for them. At that time, there was no, one of the main things that they were looking for were where the roads and bridges washed out. I started out by coordinating with a small-time blog news outlet called Watershed Post that published in the area. They had an online blog, a live streaming blog that fed Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds into their website. We gathered information from that. They put up a small web app using ArcGIS Online to show where the road closures were, where the bridges were washed out. A little farther later on, a few weeks afterwards, I was able to pull in the information where the shelters were, where hazardous waste drop-off sites were, and those sorts of things. One of the problems at that time was that this tool wasn't available. So all the road closures were basically posted in text format on 3 different counties' websites. You know, the Irene storm hit right, you know, the Ida storm, or not Ida storm, but it really hit in a spot where 3 counties came together. So if you wanted to find out where the roads were closed, you had to go to 3 different county websites, read the text. It wasn't really clear to, you know, how to route yourself through the area to get to your house or help someone out. So I just saw a gap. I volunteered my time and tried to fill that gap as best I could.
Okay, thank you. So you got 3 different perspectives there, and they're kind of unique, and that's going to kind of blend into this thing as we go through it. So the session's going to be 2 parts. There'll be the boring first part that I'll do, and then we'll have fun in the second part. And they've already yelled at me saying, you know, you got a lot of slides to cover. But I have experience covering a lot of slides, so we'll be fine here. We are going to, I have 2 volunteers that I coerced into taking some notes for us when we get to that point, and we will do that, and we'll just see where we are in terms of the questions that we've got. But, you know, I'll warn you, the first set of questions is what are the major issues we need to cover here. But first, a little background. So when I worked for the state, I had the opportunity to do some stuff at the State Emergency Management Office over the years. And over the last year, I worked on a couple of things that the National Alliance of Public Safety, GIS, it's more of a local government organization, put together for standard operating guidelines, specifically for oil spills and wildfires. So I'll bring a little of that knowledge, and we had great work groups from across the country. So I'm going to divorce myself from, you know, saying that any of the stuff I'm talking about is necessarily New York State. It's more like countrywide. And when I start talking about things that are lacking, I'm not saying, I mean, I haven't been in New York State for, what, 7 years or something. Working, so you know, I don't know what they got. Some people here do. So, what are the typical issues we see across the country with GIS and emergency management? Well, 2 big ones is you got the emergency management people that generally don't have much of an understanding of what GIS is, but you get the GIS people that don't have a good understanding of what the needs of the emergency managers are. And so there's this lack of understanding on both sides. And then when you get in, and there's that ICS stuff, the whole, how does an emergency management facility operate? You know, and there's all these rules, and then each one is has unique nuances to it. So when you may have the rules down for one thing and you go someplace else, it may be a little different. Lack of preparation. I mean, this is all about speed and preparation. I'll say that over and over again. And then always, you know, you don't have enough GIS resources. And then there's a communication thing. And then when you've got, you know, federal, state, county, municipal a lot of people are doing the same thing over, and there's, you know, there's no distribution of workload. There's a real lack of information to the public. One of the things we did an after-action report on Sandy, and in New Jersey, it's a huge problem with people needing gas. And for gas, you need two things. Well, one, you need the gas in the gas stations, and two is you need electricity to pump the gas. And when those two things converged, I mean, there was traffic's you know, backed up for miles. There were fist fights. There were a whole bunch of things. So, you know, really knowing where things are. Connecticut right now is working on an app to to provide a mobile app for your cell phone, because that's where people, you know, no matter what, this is what they use all the time. And when there's no power, they're still going to use this till the batteries run out. Is stuff like gas stations, pharmacies, grocery stores, you know, that sort of thing. And then if you're in an emergency management situation, just getting the access to the event-specific data is always difficult. Timing, need for speed. When I worked for the state, we missed more than we hit in getting the stuff to the decision makers on time. But you know, we got better over time. But you know, getting people to the site is one thing. Getting stuff delivered to the decision makers in the first couple hours where they're making their initial decisions is another thing. And then meeting expectations. You know, this GIS stuff, I remember specifically getting this one. You know, the governor's office, we want a map. Okay, what do you want? I want this, 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 this. Okay, 10 minutes later, where's the map? well, they're working on it. No. You know, the concept is you press the button on the computer and the map pops out the other end. And so you got to be prepared for that. You got to have stuff. Maybe you can't quite do it that way, but you have to have templates and other things set up so you can do that. So there's a bunch of keys for success that we outlined in these studies for the last year. And there's two parts to this. One is what the emergency managers need to know. And really, they need to know, and this is human nature, what's in it for them? How can this make them be better? They need to know that. They don't need to have to know. They don't care where you get the data from it or what, you know, great Esri add-on you use to get this or that. But they just need to know what you know, how you can make their job easier. Put it in English. You know, they need to know that they need a GIS team selected ahead of time and trained. You know, how are you going to operate in this environment? They need to integrate GIS into their workflow. And they need to communicate what are their needs, what are their expectations, because there's a, you know, once you get them excited, they have expectations like this, and life is maybe here, and you got to bring it, you know, so that they know that stuff is going to happen in a certain time frame. Regular training. You know, I can't stress that enough. Scenario training with, you know, have it all embedded into your emergency management drill. Educate the other part of the staff, not just the leaders, but, you know, how they're going to use this stuff, or what it can do for them. It's more like it. And it provides, you know, some places they got, in the state of New York State, they've got space. Other places, you know, setting up a shop and bringing in your laptop or whatever, workstation, etc. You know, you may be in a hall somewhere. The emergency managers need to know they got to give you IT support. They ought to designate a liaison to work with it. And they need to provide the GIS professionals with an org chart. I mean, that sounds, oh, what do I need an org chart for? Well, who the heck do you report to? Who do you go to get stuff done? And how should it be done? What do GIS professionals need to know? Well, this is like the opposite. Turn the mirror around. And they need to know what the emergency managers need, because you're serving them. You know, and then if they don't exactly have an idea, you got to, you know, do some storyboarding for them. You know, what if this? What if that? Once you get them going, it'll work great. You know, so what products give you the greatest assistance? And then we saw it for, I think the first time I saw the product scheduling and delivery. Al did it for post 9/11 in New York because the demand was so great, and then, you know, schedule for delivery. And the successful things we're seeing now you got standardized products that will work for most disasters, maybe, or events, and maybe it's not gonna work for everyone, but standard stuff. And then, so that gets back to expectation management. So, you know, things are gonna come out at a certain time, and the emergency managers know they can count on using it. It'll come out this time, so if they have a meeting right after that, it's there, that kind of thing. If you guys wanna interrupt or you know, go straight, you know. And then what kind of, what do you need for data? And then back to do as much upfront work as you can. You know, have the base maps done, have the templates done, any standard forms or anything standard you can do, have that done. Integrate these things into the briefings, the workflow. The workflow, you heard Jack talk about workflow today. Get it into the workflow. And make them want, you know, demand, make the emergency managers demand to have that GIS stuff. When you get to that point, I mean, you got to produce, but, you know, you're doing good. And then what do you need for servers, et cetera. The other thing is, you know, so we've all been through enough of these, and excuse my language, but shit happens. You know, you think you got it all knocked and everything, and then something's going to go wrong. So, I mean, this risk avoidance plan says, oh, what do I got to do with that? Well, what's the worst thing that can happen to you, you know? Your power goes out. What are you going to do? Maybe you use laptops for a while. Or you know, think about that. You better have your data somewhere centrally located because, you know, maybe that's not the best source of data, but you got to have a backup. All right, the term that I hear, I put speed is critical, but there's this thing, need for speed. It's there. So you need the training on the software tools, understanding stuff, contact information, who you got on your, you know, that you could possibly call up, you know, and where are they, and what's their, you know, 7x24 contact information. Can't do better than, I mean, communication. I could spend all day on this because back to the expectations, back to the procedure for processing products. If you're going to do it, who's doing it, how's it get done, and when's it going out. Communication, drills, coordinate, you know, and if you're going to work a big one, you know, and you're in local government or county government, or you're going to, you know, how are you going to work? You're going to have a call like they did during Sandy that was set up, or you know, what are you going to do to figure out who's doing what and where they're getting the data from? And you know, I once did 9. I once was at 9 metadata training sessions across New York State, and I really don't like metadata anymore. I mean, I didn't like it before I started, but I hate it now. But you got to at least tell people, you know, when the stuff was made. You know, the date and the time, you know, if you don't do anything else, but really, you know, it's good to have just a little description in there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about resources, because there's a ton out there right now. This is a shameless promotion. I worked on this thing, but anyway, it's got some good stuff in there. It's old. It's 2005, 2006, done by the National Research Council, and it came after Katrina, and it's got some good stuff in there. And you can get, you know, you can buy it, or you can just get it online. Oh, and there's a checklist in there. You'll see another checklist coming up, but there's a checklist of what I need for an emergency, which is in the appendix. That's good. FEMA has good stuff out there. Homeland Security. NAPSIG, this National Alliance for Public Safety, GIS. A lot of stuff in there. There's this tool they put together called CARET, Capability and Readiness Assessment Tool. It's kind of it's like the checklist thing, only it's online, and it's kind of, you know, use it to weigh where you are in your GIS capabilities for emergency management. I work for these folks too, NYGeoCon. We do, they have this interface of public safety stuff, and I'm sorry you can't see it real well, but it gives you a lot of different tools. It's got the NAPSIG stuff, it's got Highfield, what's Highfield stand for? Al?
Homeland Infrastructure.
Oh, it's on me.
Level data.
He works for these people. Okay, we got the CARET stuff, we've got stuff on the National Grid, NYGeoCon's got their own stuff. Geospatial concept of operations that Homeland Security has. So it's a lot of things. You'll see geospatial platform and digital coast. There's a lot of things there. It's one place to go and you can pick up a bunch of things. And then NOAA has Digital Coast, and that's a great resource, especially, you know, if you're dealing with coastal storms and stuff. And the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has what was known as the Homeland Security Infrastructure Program data. They have two parts, HSIP Freedom, which is on the data.gov site, and HSIP Gold, which is kind of secure and it's good, but it's not easy to get a hold of. Then I mentioned the GeoCon ops.
There's also HSIN, which is their web app.
Yep. Yeah, HSIN is Homeland Security Information Network. You need to be credentialed to get on it. You know, you're going to have to be part of government to get in there. USGS typically puts out imagery stuff on that site. And there's something called the Emergency Management Assistance Compact. It's between states. You have to go through your state emergency management office to get it, but you can bring in GIS practitioners from other states if you run short. And basically, it's not free, but the levels of GIS staff are already articulated, and the cost to bring them in. You know, so you know you could pick up Tim for $100 an hour, or I mean I don't know what the prices are, but you know you can get there, and it's a way to get when you have a huge crisis in your state, bring in stuff from surrounding states basically. International charter is a charter between various countries. Various satellite data is provided in case of an emergency, and the last time I saw it used was in the Colorado floods a few weeks ago. And then there's open source stuff, and UShahida is an open source product. Yeah.
What does GIS Core come into play?
Well, GIS Core can come into play if it depends on the size of it. I've more recently got some negative feedback on some of that, so I didn't bring that in here. But GIS Core is an organization of volunteers that'll work with you to bring in and help you work with the disaster if you need GIS staff, and it's volunteers. You don't have to pay, correct? Okay. Anybody got any other comments on GIS Core? Okay, so UShahida was set up, actually it's Swahili for witness, and it was set up originally for Kenya for atrocities, but it's also been used for Haiti, for the problems that we had there. And then there's other, I just pulled this down the other day, or yesterday. It's Digital Globe, and they're out there filming the stuff in the Philippines, and they're asking for, people are asking for help. Looking for volunteers. So, it's a little background. I buzzed through it, and I probably should have gone faster, but think about the event now. So we're just switching gears, and it's in, a couple weeks now? It's coming up. The weather's getting worse here. And so it's Tuesday, November 26th. So that's 2 weeks from today. And what's happening? Well, most people are preparing for Thanksgiving, right? You're going to go take some time off. Maybe you're going to have a big turkey, a big meal. Maybe you're going to grandma's house, or they're coming to your house. It's the busiest travel time of the year. And, you look at the country, there's beautiful weather, except for the two coasts. There's a couple of things going on there, and it's just not pretty, especially in the Northeast. It looks like there's a major storm going to hit. But, everybody goes on Thanksgiving. Everybody travels. So, you got this forecast, and it's just, they don't know if it's going to, at first it says it's going to be heavy rain and wind. It's going to hit the coast, maybe New York City, a lot of flooding, maybe further inland north, it's going to be heavy snow. And then this is like a nightmare if you're going to drive in this stuff. And you want to go early or you want to cancel. Most people aren't going to cancel. And this is really the first time around. It's starting to look like it's going to hit the Hudson Valley, and maybe it'll not hit the New York City that bad. they're thinking maybe more than snow. They don't know what the temperatures swing, and it's just a little more difficult. And you know, the weather guys or gals, you know, it's kind of like flip a coin. They're 50% accurate. So you know, now they're trying to do something very detailed. So it's Wednesday evening. So most people have traveled, you know, except for maybe the laggards that are only going short distances to grandma's house. And the cold air comes in from that Canadian front. And instead of snow, it becomes ice. And it covers the roads and the highways. The wind picks up. Tree limbs snap. Power outages go. Roads become impassable. In the Albany, I had a little fun with this, International Airport is closed. So really what happens is it gets a little more difficult than we thought. So this actually goes back into Utica. It follows the Mohawk Valley and right down to beyond Poughkeepsie, and there's scattered things going on down here as well. So that's pretty much clogged traffic east-west to Massachusetts and north-south. It's not good. So you're there the night before Thanksgiving, and there's really, I'm sorry, I gotta thank Ann Deacon for doing these for me, but there's a lot of stuff going on here, and there's power outages all over the place. Let's just leave it like that. And that's got a little more detail here, and there. So we wake up Thursday morning, and maybe you had the heat on, or maybe you didn't have the heat on because the power was out. And this cold kind of slides to the north, and more rain comes in from the coast. And so it's flooding. So parts of the thruway now are closed. And then it gets colder at night, and more ice comes in. And then the Stewart International Airport closes. So we're really in trouble now, because those are the two main hubs for the East Coast, I think. Well, maybe not quite. And then I'll just go through this, and you can just see the sequence. And it is more flooding Friday. Another cold front comes back in that night, and more icing, and you know, power lines are down all over the place. It's a mess. And Saturday, more cold. We got some buildings collapsed. You know, those big box stores. The roofs just got too much water and ice on them. And then we're into Sunday. Same stuff. So there are some real tragedies going on here. One, if I could go back a few years ago, I might be stuck with my mother-in-law for 5 days. And that is not any good. But there are other things. So I want you to, so let's get going. And my two note takers can come up here. Yes, you too? No, you can come up here. See? So what we're going to do is alternate back and forth, because these people are going to get really excited, and they're going to do, so one will do, and so the first thing we're going to talk about is what are the major issues. And so we're going to ask you guys to tell us what you see as the major issues, not the GIS stuff. This is, you know, you got the scenario. What's the things that are going wrong out there?
Communication over multiple counties.
Okay, what about it?
Lack of
communication over multiple counties. Okay, just one person. Okay, you'll do the next one. We'll go back and forth. That'll make it easy. Lack of communication over multiple counties. Okay.
Effects to major transportation routes.
Okay. Transportation, what do you want to call it? Impacts. Okay.
Widespread power outage.
Widespread power outage. What else, Brian?
High power outage.
Oh, geez, you took his.
fuel shortages. Fuel shortages.
For what kind of fuel?
Well, both heating and transportation.
In 1 day? 2 days? 5 days?
Well, you're talking about a major icing, no one's moving anywhere. You've got powers, you've got trees down.
Okay, I'm good with
Everything's
that.
blocked.
Fuel shortages. Lack of information to the public. Oh, that was good. I should pay you for that one. I like that.
Affects
impacts on hospitals and nursing homes.
Okay, what kind?
If they have generators that are operating, if they don't, there's certain issues.
Okay, impacts on hospitals and nursing homes, okay? George?
Who's in charge?
I have a vision of Alexander Haig, okay? Okay, who's in charge? Okay. What's your name again? Bella. Okay. Bella, that one's yours. Okay. What else? So, transportation impacted, power, make it more basic, more survival. Yes.
Food shortages.
It's Thanksgiving.
There are no turkeys left.
Well, I'll tell you what, there could be a problem with food because maybe you couldn't cook it. And not everybody's gas grill will handle a turkey very well.
Black Friday sales.
Oh my God, oh, how about economic impact? How's that? I like that. Yes?
You're more likely to have a lot of people not in their regular places with their regular resources around them, and they want to get back to their home.
Yeah. Demand for travel. And this gentleman. Here's what we're gonna do. You gotta write smaller, not a lot smaller, but we're not gonna run out of tape. Okay.
Logistical support for emergency responders in other areas, like fuel, hotels, gas.
Okay, logistical support for emergency responders. Okay, coming from other areas, got it. Okay, we talked about food. Lack of heat somewhere. I'll write that one down. We got that? Okay. All right, yes?
What about people resources? I mean, the GIS people went on vacation somewhere else.
Okay. But let's think about major issues first. Oh, okay, GIS people not there, okay. No, I got it. That's fine, that's fine. You know, I never thought of Thanksgiving, I'd have to worry about that. Yes?
Storm damage and people being displaced from their homes.
Okay, storm damage, people displaced or trapped. Or trapped. Okay, a couple other things we're missing here that I know of, yes?
About the farm animals and pets, power outages and things, you can't get feed to them, or people can't dairy cattle and things like that.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Farm animals.
Oh, farm animals.
You know, livestock.
Livestock, care of livestock, how's that? Because we know from earlier days that, you know, actually in 5 or 6 days, you gotta milk cows and stuff like that. If you have a large herd, they get mastitis. Okay. Yes, sir.
Like winter supplies, like stuff to supply the first storm, bottles and salt and stuff,
Okay.
supplies.
Supplies, got it.
Frozen pipes.
Frozen pipes. Okay, water leak upgrades, frozen pipes, yes, that's great. And, yes,
Special needs population, like the elderly or people on medication or ventilators.
okay, special needs population. Oh, she's got it. Okay.
And also transport, you know, getting people, if homes have, if shelter has been damaged, getting people into emergency shelter.
Okay, transporting people to emergency shelters.
Setting up having emergency shelters.
Setting up what?
Having emergency shelters for them to be transported.
Well, the need to set up, yes, I think that's more of the responsive issue, but you're getting ahead of, don't, you know, hold that one. George?
Trees down, debris removal.
Trees down all over the place and the need to remove stuff. And I'm gonna hit you guys next.
Fire response.
Oh, yeah. Fire response, how are you gonna get there? So did we mention, we covered, did we cover the need for drugs and things like that somewhere? I thought we did.
Special needs.
Special needs, okay. Well, yeah, okay. Throw the drugs in there. And then, and then people can't, how about, we talked about the communication between the 3 counties, but what, you know, is that referring to the communication between county governments or just people in general?
No, county governments and the response effort.
Okay, so how about the communication just between people in general?
And how about utilities? The people that gotta come in and fix all your power lines, their resources are gonna be strained.
Yeah. Okay. And they're gonna have a tough time bringing people in under an ice storm. Okay. That's it from this side. I'm gonna start here and go that way. I'm gonna try and be consistent so people will be ready, you know. Things we missed.
I'm not sure you missed much, frankly.
One would be just establishing government status like states of emergency, traffic.
Okay.
Control.
So say that,
The declaration process.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
And the other one would be, well, declaration of states of emergency, the other one would be a declaration of disaster. That effort starts pretty early from what I've seen.
Okay.
Are we going to
So
get-
what are those two, you gotta explain that to the audience, what those two things are.
Typically, you know, from the municipal level up, governments establish states of emergency either to control or limit traffic or, you know, to make it easier for emergency response people to do things. That's something that's usually needs to be communicated and also needs to be, typically ends up getting run up to at least the state level. So the state has a view of what's going on out there from that perspective, the government interaction. The other one was to beginning the cataloging process of all the damage. So are we going to get a disaster declaration? Can we count on federal aid to help handle the costs and the response? You know, again, that starts at the local level, goes up to the state, and the state communicates with the feds.
Right.
Federal people.
Doug?
Mostly small things, smaller compared to what was listed. It was a very comprehensive list. With travel and transportation, traffic lights and the fact that some of them now have to be manned by law enforcement. They're already probably short of staff. Certainly, I guess that would be the
Yeah,
biggest.
so no traffic lights, it's just real-time stuff, you know? If you can actually drive on the roads, you know, how you gonna direct traffic?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anything?
I think, well, somebody mentioned frozen pipes, but I'm thinking my planning mind comes in, I'm thinking water and sewer. I mean, water supply and a way to flush your toilets.
So
So human health and all those.
So, explain to a landscape architect,
If you don't have a water supply, you can't flush your toilet.
and why wouldn't I have water?
You want to have electricity, you're in a rural area, you have no, your water pump is.
So you're taking it out of a well, okay.
Or the, you know, or the municipal water.
They might not be gravity
Might be
fed,
too.
right? You might have pumps and other things. Okay, so water. People need stuff. What would be happening at the federal level right now? No, wait a minute, I'm gonna start. What would be happening more towards the local level?
Well, fire department is, and highway crews are just out, they're, you know, going 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
Checking people, going house to house, checking on people who are special needs people, making sure they have generators, making sure their basements are pumped out if they need that.
Okay, all right, so that's my town working. What's my county doing?
First of all, since it was a day or two prior to Thanksgiving, we would already have weather briefings. We would have probably been, our team would have been part of that. At that point, we would have asked other agencies that were there. We would have asked them if they needed any products, any maps, any base maps or anything. Point them to our portal, for instance, otherwise print them off right at the EOC where we have a plotter nowadays. We also, during the event, the EOC would be activated at some point, so, or once the need was met, and then once it was safe, they would try to get some of us to the EOC at a minimum.
Okay.
So,
All right, and Tim, what would happen at the state level at this point? Would, you know, you guys, it's big enough, so it's not just not a county thing either.
it'd be pretty similar to what Doug's talking about, when it became clear that it had a good chance to be a statewide or multi-county impact. There would have been prep work done with maps and getting the emergency managers briefed on the area that they're going to have to deal with. And then as it evolves, tracking status, tracking resources that are moving, because the state would start moving the state's resources to help the local communities.
Yeah, and Julia, would the federal government be involved at all, or is this not, I mean, nobody's declared anything, and you guys
Well,
can't
we don't wait till things are declared.
So you want to take things to
When something happens, when something's starting to happen like this, big weather in the region, we monitor it with everybody else. We look at the NOAA reports, we start talking to the state EOC to make sure that we're ready if they need us. And we start preparing to gear up, even though we're not gearing up. Everybody's on standby, everybody's vacation is canceled, everybody's trips are canceled for Thanksgiving, because we're told we have to be there and be ready to respond.
Oh, really? Yeah, no,
We would actually, and we've done this quite a few times already, done a call out ahead of time. If we knew there was a threat or potential for severe flooding during the weather briefings, for instance, if it were determined that maybe there would be tidal or inland streams, then we would maybe have done a call out. We participate with New York Alert. And so we have a lot of our GIS files sent to the team up at the state, and then when we need to do a call out, we're able to do that. Either it won't be our GIS team, it'll be other emergency managers, or sometimes even law enforcement, but if we don't have our files there, they can't do as an effective job. The other part of that is the special needs that was mentioned before. If you have a special needs registry or have obtained that information, we would do a call out for those people, just letting them know where to contact us if they need assistance and so forth. So there's some sort of call out.
okay, super. So, you got an idea on that front. So the next thing is, so those are the issues, so let's separate this a little bit. And I want you to use the red pens for this one. So what are our needs? And we kind of overlap that a little bit, but, so we were going back to basic human needs. So we got, and I'll go down through these, you guys can hit me, but we're gonna, for each need, for each issue, maybe we'll write a need or two. So you know, you can't drive on the roads, it's a transportation impasse. And I'm gonna say, let me just start and just kind of give you a heads up on this one. So the answer might be transportation impasses are so the needs are for highway crews and road clearance and police to be out there directing traffic and people to know where they can drive. You know, you can take this road, that's open, but you can't go that way because that's closed and there's 15 accidents on it, that kind of thing. Yeah.
You say that, but then with Sandy, just about the only way we can get through to people was their cell phones.
Okay.
Because most of the power was out, so they weren't getting their TV broadcasts.
Okay.
So they have, the mayor's Facebook page is describing all the things they should do and where they can go for help, this, that, and the other thing. Where do you tell them about what roads are open, what roads are closed?
Look, that's enough. Don't jump ahead. But keep that in mind. So anything else with transportation? Okay. I'm sorry, what?
What the expected dates for things to change are? You know, are we gonna get this, is it gonna be cleared up in an hour and don't worry about it, or is it gonna be six weeks?
Wow, okay. Yeah, okay, so when will the roads reopen? So that may not be the ice thing, that may be the, you know, you got power lines down and you've got, you know, you got a tree down, you know, and somebody's gotta be out there clearing it up. So we need to know where that stuff is and it needs to be defined. So that's a need. Okay, heating and gas shortages. So, I got no power, I got no heat, so what do people need?
Generator.
How long is
Shelter. Well, yeah, generators would be great, but, you
Well,
know.
part of sheltering. would be-
I can see there'll be a run at Home Depot on generators, but they gotta get to Home Depot, they gotta get the gas, the fuel for the stuff. But, yeah, shelters, so they need shelters.
How about how long is the event's gonna expect it to occur? Because if it's 6 hours, you do one thing, but if it's a week, it's different.
Okay. So how do you know how long it's gonna be?
Weather information.
You need an immediate
Information.
assessment and a way to communicate what that assessment is.
Okay, the best you can do is the weather, I mean, I don't, you know.
Respiration.
You trust the weatherman or lady? But yeah, you need somebody to give you the best shot at how long it's gonna be. Do I stay in my home? Or do I, you know, thinking, oh, I got a fireplace, you know, I can keep warm, you know, I keep my pipes from breaking, and I can do that for a couple days. You know, when it gets, the last big storm in Connecticut, I know my daughter and her family were out of power for 7 days. About the sixth day, got pretty unhappy in the family, let's put it that way. So we need shelters. So hospitals and nursing homes with lack of power, is that another shelter thing? What do you do for hospitals and nursing homes? What do you do with the people in the hospitals that don't have, in nursing homes that don't have
First
power?
thing you try to do is you try to get them generators.
Okay, so that's more of a get them generator thing.
But in some cases, they may need to, in extreme cases, may need to be relocated, which then you have to have transportation for.
Okay. So there's two parts to that. So the need could be for hospitals and nursing homes to have generators. We have a large population. That makes more sense than Ray's wanting a generator in every home. And the other thing is you may have to evacuate them. So you need to, you know, need to have an evacuation plan for them.
And for that, you're gonna need ambulances. For that, you're gonna need to get the state involved, so EMAC can be used to get ambulances.
Okay. Evacuation plan, ambulances, and you can throw in the EMAC. Food, cooking, fuel. Where are we going for that? I mean, we don't do Meals on Wheels in ice storms. So, what's the?
That'd be the shelter, you know, have food in the shelters.
Okay, so to solve that one, you could be food in the shelter, okay? The other thing, yes?
So it would be for education beforehand, so people prepare, so they already have stocks before an event like this happens.
Okay. Stocks that don't need heating or anything? A lot of cereal. Okay. All right. I just had something that I lost in the middle of your conversation. Food, whatever. But we have to be able to direct people to shelters where they can get food. And the shelters need to know how many people are in the area so that they can plan for that food. And water and things like that there. We did a logistical support for emergency responders. Yeah, I mean, we need to take care of it, but we haven't gotten that far yet. So let's move over. Storm damage, people displaced and trapped. I don't know how we're gonna, how are we gonna know who's trapped where? Local fire departments, mostly?
Yeah, it depends, when you say we, the state would only have a very cursory view of where this might be happening. It'd be the locals who are dealing with that.
Yeah, I mean,
And we'd be trying to collect information from the towns and the villages, for instance, to get a central repository of that.
and what would you do with that?
Well, the emergency managers, decision makers would handle whatever we could map and
They
identify.
might
We would
look
help
to
with
move, you know, resources from one town to another town to help out or something like that. Okay.
Priority,
Excuse me?
priority areas?
Yeah, establish priorities. Road salt, yeah, but you gotta be able to get to the store to use that. Special needs people and drugs, so people need to, that gets me back to the other thing, one of the things I talked about earlier. People might wanna know, where there are, grocery stores that are open with power, or at least emergency power. I mean, sometimes you go to like a Price Shop or something locally, they have emergency generators and they can, you can get something there. And also, pharmacies. You know, I mean, it's an amazing thing when people, well, you know, you travel to Aunt Martha's house. Okay, I'll be there. You travel to Aunt Martha's house and you forgot your meds, or you only got, you thought you had a week's worth and you have 2 days worth, and so they need to be able to get the, so they need to know pharmacies that open with power. Sherry?
People want to know how to deal with their pets.
Ah, pets. How do you deal with them? Because if the shelter won't accept them, people won't leave their houses generally, right? Okay, trees down. At the local level, is that, I mean, I'd love to think there was some crowdsourced map or something that people will go on but is the fire department going out or the highway department?
Yeah, both volunteers.
So we need to have volunteers, we need to have, we need to know where they are. And that goes back to the road closures and, you know, so roads closed, why is it closed, and, you know.
People call in. I mean, if there's a tree down in front of your house, you call.
Where do I call?
Usually they call the town that they live in and say, there's a tree down in front of me.
Oh, well, okay, but that also took them I've got a mobile phone, okay.
Yeah, almost everybody has that.
But we don't know that the town has a mobile, you know.
911 systems usually have backup.
Okay, so I just call 911 on my cell and it'll probably work.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that. I'm actually really happy to know that.
To just expand on the trees down, for instance, a lesson learned on our end was, once we started including the utility companies after Irene, we learned a lot of other things on the attribute data that you need to collect and the verification on that data. The utility companies want one thing and highway departments want another. When in reality, you know, years ago, we used to just put a dot on the map, for instance, to map a road closure. But now with the routine we've developed, you can put a dot on the map and identify what the reason is. And that way, now, if you've got the correct attribute data, then the highway departments and the utility companies can better coordinate who has to do what. If it's just trees down, the highway departments go to that location. If it's just utility wires down, then the utility company goes. And better coordination, especially when they're both down. As a result.
What are they looking for?
What's that?
You said they want attribute data, what data are they looking for?
Well, the utility companies, for instance, they wanted to know whether it was trees and wires, because they even have separate crews, for instance, that would go to that incident as compared to just utility wires. Was it a pole down, transformer list? They've got systems now, most, you know, in many cases that even identify if their circuit's broken, they'll have a better idea. But they don't necessarily know why. Are there trees down? Well, like the system we created, it allows us to quickly pop it in, and anyone can do it now. You don't need to be an ArcMap, ArcGIS specialist.
Actually, since Sandy, Con Ed has come in and piloted with us to try and train our first responders and, say, engineering inspectors to identify even their utility or maybe a cable company or telephone company wires that they wouldn't even get involved with. So they're actually taking a proactive step to say, hey, I want to train you so that you can be my eyes on the ground before we even get there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. The best thing that we noticed was the information is going to be, you know, the highest quality at the person out in the field. So we've been training highway superintendent or supervisors, utility crews, and so forth, because if they can put it in the system, it's a lot better than a phone game or a fax or an email, you know, because information changes all along the way, obviously.
You also need to list of local contractors and what kind of equipment they might have, if they have bulldozers or bucket trucks that.
Okay, and that'll all be known by the locals. Do they have those kind of lists, or?
I don't know.
Many do.
Oh, do they? Okay.
I'm sure they're familiar with the local contractors within town, but I
Yep.
don't know if anybody has a comprehensive list.
I think one of the things we haven't quite triggered in on, focused in on yet was people need to know where the power is on. Because you know what, if this is their only means of communication, and I got this from my daughter and her family, we need to charge this sucker. Because that's the only way we know anything about what's going on. That's our only access to the phone, the internet, and anything else. So they need to know where power's on, and, you know, it'd be nice to know if you could charge it someplace, but how about we just start with, they need to know where the power is, where it's on, and or, of course, it'd be lovely to know when your power was coming back on, but I don't know how accurate that is right now. It's not?
Our local utility company had a website, and they changed it after Irene as well, and they used to be like, I think it used to say 12 hours for just about everybody, you know, and this last one, they got a little more realistic, but it gets frustrating to the public, and that's when you asked about, you want to know how long it takes. I mean, it's up to the decision makers to try to get together and get that message out is key, because you don't even want the people on the roads.
One of the things after Sandy that someone on Long Island, town of Huntington said, was that they found that letting people know that they were doing debris removal was almost more important to people than when their street would be cleared, because at least they put on their website where they were progressing, and that made people know that they were actually out there. So even if your street isn't cleared yet, somebody's street is, and they'll get you eventually, and at least they knew that it was being done. So that's information that needs to be out there as much as possible.
Progress on, let's put tree removal or anything, yeah.
Or power or any of those.
Or power, yeah, but we'll start with tree removal, because that would work for the township, and the power goes to the utility company,
Well,
and they're two different animals, yeah.
that can kind of tie in with the tree removal thing, how about, you know, reviewing, executing your response contracts, because, you know, the towns and the counties, the state, only has limited resources. In fact, we have less and less, and relying on our contractors and emergency support contractors, which is primarily privatized.
Okay.
Other than the the EOC work and, you know, management decision making at the state, and we're, you know, talking government levels, other than utilities, but.
Okay, so that ties into what we've been talking about though, right? So let's take, if you don't mind, these two and put them right behind our panelists over here. And then think about, how we gonna solve this with GIS or not? And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first ask our panelists what would be done at their level to solve it, because they're not going to be able to solve it all. Or maybe they will, I don't know. Let me just, let's get it up there. So let's concentrate on power, on shelter, on road access, or what's, you know, and where the trees are down, and let's start with that. Start content, because he's the most likely to have an impact.
Well, first thing you need to do is basically take an inventory of all the impacts. Where's the power out? You would shape, polygon that shows where the power is out, points on the road where they're closed, where the bridges are washed out. A list of shelter locations. You want to try to populate a database with.
Okay, let's go a little slower.
Okay.
Yeah, inventory of power outages, road washouts. What else?
Bridge washouts.
Bridge washouts.
Potential shelter locations.
Let's put shelters on the other side here. Shelters over here. Yep. That'll be the bad side. You got the bad side. She's got the good side. No. And what else? That's pretty typical for right now. And how would you do that? Well, I'll ask that later. But think about that. And Doug, what do you? For those three.
Well, our main priority during the event, as things are going on, is to collect the road obstruction information. We found that just to be such, the biggest key. Again, we've learned it has to be something simple, easy to do. But we've exported out the major, they're saying that we exported out just the major, the state, county, and if the thruway was impacted, for instance, and exported that file and put it into Google and created a Google map. county website along with some of the other public information. In our case, we got 10,000 hits in like 6 days. So it was a pretty effective way of just getting the major thoroughfares out there to the public, informing them.
So it's a Google app that's going out from the county site that people can get and find out. And how do you get that information?
Well, we've collected it, for instance, we've coordinated and done training, so we have we have 5 towns, we have several highway departments who enter their own information along with their emergency manager at the local level. They'll enter it, it's a web-based system, then we can easily export out tables and sort them by jurisdiction of roadway, what fire district or anything, because we found that to be much more proactive and get that information back to